Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This has surely been a learning experience, yes? It's quite natural and appropriate that we hear extensively again and again about the lineage from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his associates, their teachings, their activities. And we become very familiar with and accustomed to and comfortable with you could say this brand of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It should be like that. It is like that. At the same time, it's important that we have at least some acknowledgement, if not familiarity, some acknowledgement of the trunk of the tree of which we are a branch, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings are a branch. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. So does he need a branch? He doesn't need anything. He's the source of everything. Yet, to teach by example, he takes shelter of this disciplic succession, Madhvacharya's disciplic succession. And by his arrangement, or Krishna's arrangement, in the same line as Madhvacharya came Madhavendra Puri, and then came Ishwara Puri, and then came Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And from Madhavendra Puri, through Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, a very special flavor, a branch of a branch, special flavor of there's one Supreme Lord who is the source of everything. Of course, that's Bhagavad Gita's teaching. And then comes some details. We'll just take that same example from yesterday evening's class. There's the substructure, and then there's the structure that's built upon the substructure. And so, even amongst Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers, there's varieties of emphasis and revelation and realization and so forth. Varieties of worship. Not varieties of standards of worship, but varieties of worship. It's natural. It's appropriate. It's spiritual life. So the trunk of the tree, or the Madhva Sampradaya, has some amazing personalities. We're going to hear some more this morning And then a little bit further when we go to the next place, and then in the next place, we're going to hear, as we heard during earlier yatras in the South India tour of Mahaprabhu, about Ramanujacharya and some of his followers and some of their teachings and the likenesses and dissimilarities. I like very much how Prabhupada explained to one professor from Ireland, Professor O'Grady, who was a theologist in the Christian tradition, and he wanted to more deeply understand what Prabhupada was teaching and its practical application. So some of you may not know, O'Grady is an Irish name. O'Grady was an Irish name. So he was born and raised and educated in Ireland. And in Ireland, there's two divisions of Christianity. There's more than two, but Catholic and Protestant. And for centuries, there's not just been disagreement, there's been bloody battles between the Catholics and the Protestants, really invested in their ism. Bloody. You know, and it subsides and then it rises again. And some years ago, I had a discussion with Pragosh Prabhu, who was born in Ireland, and I told him that from my mother's side, she's Scotch-Irish. Scotch-Irish. And I gave the family name, and he said, "Oh, that's Protestant family." I mean, just immediately, I was like, and then, because there's the Catholics and the Protestants, and there's names that go with this ones and that ones. Same thing here in India. We're going to hear some more this morning about this ones and that ones, and names and clans and, disputes. And it's rooted in the bodily conception. All this clashing is not rooted in the spiritual, it's rooted in the material conception. And it's okay to identify with Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitanya's followers, at the same time being very respectful. Do others have, even the same tree that we're from, there's diversity. And it's a little perplexing, to be honest. As I started hearing like this example of there's different grades of jivas, it's fixed. Prabhus, it's fixed. When you're in this classification of jiva, that's it. That's not Gaudiya teaching. It doesn't make sense to me. But that's part of the teaching. And then there's gradations, we heard yesterday evening, gradations of Vaikuntha, depending upon the mode of nature that your affinity is towards. Our teaching is your mode of nature can change. And how does it change? By Sangha. You stand near fire, you get warm. You stand near something cold, you get cold. Temperature can change, and similarly modes of nature can change. And that's what Prabhupada did. He took people, like jivas, that were influenced by such and such modes, and by his association, they became transformed. And, that's America, and there's a few people here that are not like me, Scotch-Irish. My father's side was German. Mom and dad. So, different background, but, covered by the modes of nature. And changed. And eligible for going to Goloka Vrindavan. There's no Goloka Vrindavan in Madhva's teaching. So there's diversity, it's my point. And it's quite okay. He, Madhva, wanted to give, one of the English translations is reals, that which is real or truth, satya, or tattva. And it's 5 truths. We have our 5 truths, panchatattva. But it's not just 5, there's also living entities and so forth, so on. It's nice to appreciate, have affinity for, but not sectarian. Have some appreciation for diversity. Oh, so this Professor O'Grady, back to him. He was asking Prabhupada, can Krishna consciousness practically resolve this Irish problem? For centuries, the Protestants and Catholics going at it, bloody battles. Is it possible? And Prabhupada did 2 things. He said, this movement is made up of so many people of different backgrounds, but there's unity in diversity. And the unity is Krishna consciousness. So I want to get on to this morning's topic, but I just wanted to share some reflections and some appreciation of what we're doing here. It's like there's a lot of names, and it's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to get more names and more information, and you can just your brain can be puzzled by more names and more information. So try to capture the essence, and the essence is there are personalities with lots of diversity, and it's fantastic. Not just information, it's deeply rooted. We're going to hear this morning, deeply rooted and very mysterious. And it's not just Puranic or Itihasa. This is contemporary. I mean, Madhvacharya is Hanuman, or Vayu, and Bhima, and we're going to hear about Jayatirtha, who is Arjuna. Wait a minute. And before he was Arjuna, he was a bull. Same jiva. By some offenses he made as Arjuna. Offenses. Now, anyway, we have our philosophy that says bhakti can clear all offenses, right? Well, bhakti can clear anarthas that arise from sin. But what about anarthas that arise from aparad? Serious business. Beware. We're going to hear. So it's quite mysterious. And there's wonderful personalities, outstanding. And this is what we're going to hear is from a Madhva perspective, which is just fine. But appreciate the bhakti of each of these personalities and take inspiration. And one of the main inspirations in hearing all of this arises, in this case, from Madhvacharya, and his mood, one of the principal parts of his mood was dispelling the darkness of ignorance, which is the same as the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why did he appear? And what did he do? Dispel the darkness of ignorance. The methodology is variable. Oh yeah, Prabhupada referred to Professor O'Grady. He gestured to a vase of flowers on the table where they were seated. See this vase of flowers? They're all flowers. That's the unity. And there's some different colors of flowers, different varieties of types of flowers, and there's some greens. And supposing it was just one color flower, it's not as beautiful. Appreciate the beauty in the diversity so how do you get the unity in the diversity? It takes a spiritual conception. So 2 things. Leave behind the material and embrace the spiritual conception. That's the unity. And there's diversity. And it's beautiful. Embrace it. That's reality. There's diversity. In the spiritual realm, there's diversity. The way of saying that in Gaudiya line is different. The way of saying it in Madhva's line is different. That's okay. Differences are beautiful. And listen to the persons, meditate on the persons who are in his line. Luminaries. Different luminaries that we're benefiting from. You know, there's diversity, and the main source of our inspiration is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna himself, who's teaching, taking shelter of the personality of Godhead in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. Topmost is the Vrajavidu Vargena, Vaakalpita, best. And that's the mood. And along with that mood is propagating that same. Tirelessly Prabhupada did. So, but these other personalities similarly tirelessly engaged. So, I don't know if you noticed, but one of the places at the Sri Krishna Mat is the place where Madhvacharya disappeared. Some of you saw, maybe not all of you saw, but there's a wonderful pastime connected with his disappearance. So in that Mat, he was speaking. So let's do before his actual physical departure. Many years dedicated to that service which he was sent to do, and very successful, and much writings and establishing temples and standards of worship and the importance of deity and the importance of there's the living entity and the supreme are different. And all living entities, we heard the doctrine or the tenets, all living entities are imbued naturally already. It's intrinsic to be servants of Hari. I mean, he did his work, and it was good and successful. And what was left for him was transferring the succession to the next in line, which he did. And now it's time for him to depart. So a pretty spectacular departure. While speaking at Sri Krishna Mat, suddenly from the sky, a downpour of flower petals came and completely covered his body. They couldn't see his body. There were so many flower petals. And when they cleared the flower petals, he was gone. His body, poof. They couldn't have even, less rights because he was gone. And so there we mentioned the next four in line were all disciples of Madhvacharya, starting with what's in our line, Padmanabha Tirtha and Narahari Tirtha. And now we're going to hear next, or at least subsequent. The personality that we're going to isn't the next in line, but it's a pretty amazing personality. Jayatirtha. Tirtha as being the title, and Jayatirtha. So Jayatirtha's life is best understood, is explained in the Madhva line, as going back to the Mahabharata time, specifically Arjuna. And the elder brother of the Pandavas was Yudhishthira. So on the 18th day, the final day, Karna is still alive, and Yudhishthira was being attacked by Duryodhana, 18th day. And he wounded Yudhishthira. He was cornered by Duryodhana, and he wounded him. To protect their elder brother, Nakula and Sahadev drew their chariots in such a way that Yudhishthira could retreat protected. Sahadev's weapons injured Duryodhana. Seeing that their brother was injured, Yudhishthira was injured, Bhima came charging. And they were attempting to take Yudhishthira back to their camp to be treated, hospitalized or, treated for his battle wounds. As that retreat was being made, Karna killed with his arrows the horses of Yudhishthira's chariot and the horses of Sahadev's chariot. Nakula's chariot. So 2 sets of horses down, 1 set of horses remaining. Sahadev's chariot carried Yudhishthira back to their main camp. Arjuna is anxious for the well-being of his elder brother, Yudhishthira. So he says to Bhima, Bhima, can you go and check on our elder brother and see how he's doing? And Bhima said, better if you go. Bhima said, better if you go. This is the 18th day. Better if you go, because I have my divisions of soldiers and I can't retreat. They'll lose heart. Well, Arjuna said, well, I have an Aksohini division of soldiers, and if I depart, they may be at risk. Bhima said, no problem. I'll protect your Aksohini division of soldiers. You go ahead and see how Yudhishthira is doing. Bhima is an important person in the teachings of Madhvacharya, so he said, go ahead. So Arjuna went. He went to the camp, and there was Yudhishthira being cared for by medical team. And Arjuna had previously made a vow before the 18th day that he would personally kill Karna because there was some concern. Karna is really powerful. What's the deal? How to deal with him? And Arjuna volunteered, I'll kill him personally on 1 chariot, just me and Karna, and I'll finish him. With a promise to Yudhishthira. This is exciting. And when Arjuna met Yudhishthira, he was happy to see that he was okay, and Yudhishthira said, have you killed Karna? You made a promise. He said, well, I left the battlefield because I was concerned about you, and I haven't yet killed Karna. What? So now Yudhishthira starts blasting him. There's details, and too many details, I'm going to read some of this. Your army has been routed and set flight. How are you noble and honorable? This is horrible. You were afraid. And you betrayed our mother, Kunti. And you betrayed Bhima. And now you're here without having killed Karna? What kind of soldier are you? You should never have given your promise to me. We would have some other way of figuring out how to deal with Karna. You made your promise and you didn't fulfill your promise. And then he said something really heavy. Better you weren't even born. In the 5th month of the pregnancy of Kunti, better you had died. And now that since you were born, better you would have given your bow to Krishna and let you be the chariot driver and Krishna be the warrior, because Krishna would have kept his vow. And now you've betrayed your vow. Shame on you. Shame on your Gandiva bow. Shame on your might of your arms. Shame on your inexhaustible quivers. Shame on your chariot that was Agni's gift to you. Like heavy, heavy. Now Arjun wasn't expecting being dealt with so heavily. He was there to see how his brother is doing. He got chastised severely. No, it's not like he got uppity, but he had another vow he had taken. Anybody who criticizes my Gandiva bow, I'm going to finish them. And so he drew his sword, ready to chop his brother's head off. Draupadi came running and, tried to stop Arjuna. Krishna saw this is offense number 1. Krishna saw, and Krishna said, "What are you doing? Are you a man or a beast? With your sword raised to kill your respected elder brother?" So that utterance had to come true, because Krishna said, "Are you a man or beast?" So there's some consequence for that offense. Next offense is Krishna drew the chariot on the 18th day to the place where the Bhagavad Gita discussion took place 18 days previous. Krishna wanted to stop. Krishna instructed Arjuna to get down from the chariot. Here. Arjuna said to Krishna, it's custom that the charioteer gets down first, and the person who they're carrying, comes down second. Now, that's an offense. Hanuman, not just on carving or some kind of colorings on Arjun's chariot flag, Hanuman was there. We heard this. According to Madhvacharya, the teaching of Bhagavad Gita was for the benefit of Hanuman, because he would enjoy hearing Krishna speak the Bhagavad Gita message. It wasn't for Arjuna. That's his commentary. So Hanuman, on the flag of Arjuna's chariot, heard this discussion and started laughing. Arjuna said, "What's that voice? Why is he laughing?" And Hanuman started laughing more and more and more. And Hanuman flew away. He left the flag. And the chariot then also burned in flames, because Agni had given the chariot, and the chariot just burst into flames, this offense to Krishna. And the horses were given by Mother Earth. The horses just entered into the earth. And there's Arjuna standing there. So the life of Jayatirtha says that because of the utterance of Krishna and because of these two offenses of Arjuna, in his next life, Arjuna had to become a beast. But he was a fortunate beast. He became an ox that was the oxen that carried this library, the books. He didn't have a computer. He had books. And the books were carried in this cart, and the cart was pulled by the ox that had become Arjuna, or Arjuna had become the ox. So there's Bhima, who has now become Madhvacharya, and there's the ox of Madhvacharya, who is Arjuna. And regularly when Madhvacharya was giving his classes, the books were nearby, which meant the bullock was nearby, and the bullock was hearing the classes of Madhvacharya. And from time to time, Madhvacharya would ask a question and look to the ox, the bullock, and look to his audience and say, have you understood this subtle philosophy? Here's one of the subtle philosophies. This is one of Madhva's teachings. In this world, there's suffering. And suffering is due to ignorance. So how to overcome the ignorance? Well, you need proper knowledge of the absolute truth, and you need to surrender. Mamekam sharanam. You need to surrender unto the will of the Lord. Having explained this, he looked around the audience and said, has everyone understood this? He looked to the bullock, and the bullock nodded his head. And the audience noticed he's giving deference before us to the bullock. So they, unfortunately, started becoming envious. What's this bullock? And he's more important than us? And so they had a desire that he should die. With their desire that he should die, one day, when this scene was going on, a snake came, a serpent, black cobra. And the black cobra was approaching the devotees. And the devotees became very concerned. And then the cobra left the track heading for them and went straight to the bullock and bit the bullock. And the bullock collapsed on the ground. And they were calling out and calling out and calling out to the bullock, but he left his body. Madhvacharya began reciting these stotras, these 12 verses that he had composed the very day that he found Udupi Krishna. And as he was reciting like this, suddenly Arjuna appeared in the form of the bull. And the disciples saw. And now the disciples understood why Madhva was giving deference to the bull, because the bull was Arjuna. And then Madhvacharya made this utterance or prediction. First born as Arjuna, then reborn as a bull, and in the third incarnation he'll be born as Tikacharya Jayatirtha. Tika means commentary. Acharya, we know the meaning. And his name will be Jayatirtha, to carry out the work of Hanuman, who is Madhvacharya. Very interesting. Sometime later, Jayatirtha took his birth. He took his birth in a place in Maharashtra, near Pandharpur. He took birth in a Marathi-speaking Brahmin family. So those who are Marathi-speaking, you can go, yay, for the Marathi-speaking people. And he had a birth name named Narayana, but conventionally, and it stuck with him through his life, he was known as Dundoji. 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 And his father's name, the family name was a Deshpande family. I know some Deshpande family people. So his father's name was Raghunath Nayak. Raghunath Nayak. Raghunath Nayak was a Brahmana, but also in the position of a landholder. So that meant he had the responsibility to protect the people that were part of the kingdom that he was a sub-king of or a ruler of a certain section of that country. We hear more about the kingdom in which he was a ruler. Raghunath Nayak Deshpande had a wife. His wife's name is Rukumai. Now his father had a military or administrative or a Kshatriya-like responsibility to give protection and rule in a certain part of this bigger kingdom. And therefore their son grew up with opulence. Dundoji had a Kshatriya-like spirit. He liked sports. He especially liked horseback riding. And this horseback riding becomes important shortly. When he was just 8 years old, his father arranged for his Upanayana, and he began his studies. And in addition to the classic kinds of studies in scripture, he also learned horseback riding because he liked it. And it would fit the portfolio of the son of a administrative king-like person. And really good at wrestling too. He's, a young boy, strapping boy. As was the tradition, he was married when he was very young. His wife was younger than he was. His wife was 8 years old when she was married. Times have changed, but that was the tradition at the time. 8-year-old wife. And her name was Bhima. Very beautiful, from a virtuous family, and, they lived happily ever after, kind of thing. It was a nice arrangement. Something happened a little bit later in his life. When he was around 20 years old, his father was summoned by the king. The king was a Muslim, and the kingdom was known as the Bahmani dynasty. So suddenly his father was called to meet with the king. So he left. And when his father was gone to meet with the king, some robbers and bandits thought, now's our chance. We can pillage his territory. And so they did. They, using weapons, intimidating people, they robbed everybody, everything, and ran as quickly as they could. But their son was left behind, and Dundoji gathered a little army of cavalry, horseback riders and infantry, and went chasing the robbers, and he caught them, and he killed them, and he took all the loot that they had robbed from the people and took it back to the people within his father's kingdom. It's not his kingdom, he's just the son of the ruler of that territory. Now, this was in the heat of the summer when this event happened. So it was very hot, and the horses were tired and thirsty. And so on the way back to the kingdom, they passed by a river, and the horse was so thirsty, being exhausted from the chase for the robbers, the horse just, rather than responding to the reins of the horseback rider, he went right into the river and started drinking water from the river. And Dundoji unconsciously started drinking water from the river like an animal, meaning he wouldn't use his hands and he just put his mouth in the river and started drinking the water, leaning over the side of the horse. And then he started thinking, wait a minute, this is uncultured. Horses drink this way, but why am I doing like this? I know better and I have culture and tradition. And it started to appear in his mind of his past life. And then he heard a voice from the sky, an unembodied voice saying, were you a beast in your previous life? And where did that voice come from? He couldn't see where the voice came from. And the voice said it again, and it said it heavier and in harsh tones. Gradually, he started remembering his previous life as a bull. And as a bull, he was in the service of his master, Madhvacharya. This is Jayatirtha, or Dundoji. Later he becomes Jayatirtha. And then he started, because he's a deep thinker, he started thinking, who am I anyway? Am I really the son of a Deshpande family, or am I a bull, or what am I? Who am I? And as he left the river to go back to the bank of the river, which was now on the other side of the river, he saw Akshobhya Tirtha. Akshobhya Tirtha is in the line of succession from Madhvacharya number 4, Padmanabha Tirtha. And so he's number 4, Narahari Tirtha, and number 4 is Akshobhya Tirtha. And Akshobhya Tirtha was getting old, and he had a concern. Who's going to be next in line after me? Responsible. No surprise. But he hadn't found anyone who was qualified to carry the teachings of Madhvacharya. In a dream, he saw Madhvacharya, who was his guru. And his guru, Madhvacharya, informed him in this dream that very soon you meet a man who has behavior like an animal, drinking water like an animal, and he will be the person who you can give sannyas to and train to be next in line in disciplic succession. And his dream broke. And shortly after his dream broke, there was Dundoji standing in front of him, silent. And he understood what that meant. Dundoji prostrated before Akshobhya Tirtha. Meanwhile, Dundoji had traveled not alone, he was with a whole band of soldiers. And the soldiers were looking for their fearless leader. Young man, but their leader. They couldn't find him, couldn't find him, couldn't find him. Eventually they saw on the other shore of the river this horse. But they saw the horse without the horseback rider, their leader. So they crossed the river and they apologized when they met Dundoji, our horses were also tired and we were tired and it took us a while to find you, and so let's go back to the palace. And Dundoji said, that's okay, I want to stay for a while with this sannyasi. So there's a particular location, the name of that particular location is a village called Sandhyavali. And so the soldiers went back and informed his father, when his father had returned from his political business, that their son was with this sannyasi. And the sannyasi is Akshobhya Tirtha. And he wanted to stay longer with Akshobhya Tirtha. So his father and their family were all followers of Madhvacharya. So he thought, wow, what good fortune. A direct disciple of Madhvacharya is right here in my kingdom. But also, I didn't know it, and so I haven't honored him properly. So in a royal procession, he went to the shore of this river where Akshobhya Tirtha and his son were together. And he got down from his horse and paid his obeisances to Akshobhya Tirtha and apologized for not having the proper reception. And Akshobhya Tirtha said, it's just fine. Your son has taken good care of me. And then the king said, Raghunath Nayak Deshpande said, by your mercy, I now have a son who is such a qualified son. And Akshobhya Tirtha said, it's the mercy of Lord Ramachandra, I'm just an instrument. And he suggested, let's have a big festival in honor of Lord Ramachandra. So they had a big festival in honor of Lord Ramachandra. And when the big festival and feast, etc., was over, is now time, as far as Raghunath Nayak is concerned, it's time to go back. And his son said, I want to stay here. I want to become a mendicant and live with Akshobhya Tirtha. What? I'm depending on you. You're the successor in my kingdom. But he curbed his anger because he's in front of Akshobhya Tirtha. And then he collected himself a little bit and said, who's responsible for this? That's a nice thing to do when you don't know what to do. You ask some questions. Who's responsible for this? Akshobhya Tirtha said, your son has just been moved by Madhvacharya from within to go away from worldliness and into the world of spiritualness. And so just accept it. The father requested Akshobhya Tirtha, please persuade my son to do otherwise. Akshobhya Tirtha said, this is really nice. Yes, this world is very sweet and beautiful. Life is enjoyable. But how long is that sweetness going to last? Perhaps your son has realized the futility of the existence, of material existence, material life, due to his past experiences. So now there's Madhvacharya's, one of his main teachings is that. So he can't go against Madhvacharya because he followed Madhvacharya, but he's an attached father. So how has all of this come about? And Akshobhya Tirtha said again, It's inspiration from within. You should just accept it. Who knows what is in store for the future? Maybe by Lord Ramachandra's blessings, you may receive another son to carry forward your lineage. But always remember that no one can equal Dundoji's service to the Supreme Lord. So what did the father do? Right then and there, he grabbed his son by the arm and forcibly took him back to the palace. Not good. But sometimes attached people do things that are not good. Pretty exciting, huh? Remember, this is Arjuna. When they got back to the palace, he was totally disinterested in palace life, nice life, comforts, opulence. His happiness was being in solitude. His food was fasting and meditation. The parents were wondering, what happened? What are we going to do? We need a successor. He's so qualified. He showed how qualified he is. Something got into this boy. Next, he's on a terrace in the palace, and he hears a voice, this disembodied voice that spoke to him before. He looked around. Maybe it's my guru. He saw the cobra standing near him. And the cobra said, Arjuna, can you recognize me? And at that moment, Dundoji remembered his previous life as Arjuna and events during the Mahabharata times. And he remembered specifically there was a serpent named Asvasena. During the burning of the Khandava forest, he was burned in the fire, Ashvasena. And Dundoji said, Ashvasena, I recognize you. Have you nursed permanent enmity from that time during your presence in the Khandava forest that you died? Do you still have that animosity towards me and venom? And if you feel that's appropriate, you can bite me again, as you did as a bull. I'm ready for your punishments. Very intriguing. Asvasena said, Arjuna, my poison disappeared when I bit you as a bull. I have come here to deliver the Lord's message. Do not get trapped by the enticements of material existence. You have become a man from a beast. By the mercy of your spiritual masters, you should make the best use of your human life. Pretty dramatic, huh? Dundoji said, why have I been forced to accept this body of a royal family? Is it true that this body itself is worthless? Ashvasena said, Arjuna, you're getting a reaction. During the pastimes of the kidnapping of Subhadra, you dressed like a sannyasi. Since you insulted the sannyas order, Now you have this reaction, which is you have to give up a beautiful wife and accept the garb of a sannyasi. Dundoji said to the cobra, I'm very honored by your presence, and as by your bite you relieve the body of a beast, a bullock, so also by your presence you're relieving me from the entanglement of material existence. I'm deeply, profoundly indebted to you. Please remain with me always. The cobra disappeared. Later, one day, he's with his wife. By the way, his wife was named Bhima. And as they were sitting together, suddenly a cobra appeared. And the cobra appeared. He was reclining and appeared right by his head, looking as if he's about to strike. His wife screamed. And her scream was so loud that many others heard her scream. And they came running. What to do, what to do. They got the brahmanas what to do, what to do. The brahmanas considered the situation and spoke to his father, Raghunath Nayak. And they expressed, like a sick person who has lost all appetite, your son has lost a desire for enjoying material comforts. There is no use in keeping him here forcefully, because he forcefully brought him back to the kingdom, to the palace. We must accept the divine will of the Lord, pray to the Lord, and obey his dictations. Raghunath Nayak, hearing from his Brahmana priests, honored their words with much difficulty and gave permission for his son to take sannyas. And so Dundoji went quickly to the ashram of Akshobhyatirtha. And there's many nice things here. But he went to his wife and explained to his wife the necessity of his taking sannyas. I mean, in order to fully dedicate himself, he was no interested in material life anyways, but to fully dedicate himself to preserving and propagating the teachings of Madhvacharya. Reluctantly, she accepted. So he now has permission from his father, he has permission from his wife. Then he went to Akshobhyatirtha's place and prepared for sannyas. The sannyas ritual was taking place by the side of the river. He shaved his head, gave up his old clothes, accepted the sannyas clothes, and he was given the sannyas name Jayatirtha. So Dundoji becomes Jayatirtha. Now the spotlight is going to shift to Akshobhyatirtha, because Akshobhyatirtha, as mentioned, he was fourth in the line as a disciple of Madhvacharya, and he was a very powerful person. He was especially gifted in grammar and in logic, and he was an expert speaker. He could easily defeat anyone in arguments, and one of those persons he defeated in argument was a very significant Advaitin, or adherent of Advaitavad, whose name was Sri Vidyaranya. Remember this name because we're going to hear his name several times. Sri Vidyaranya. Vidyaranya. And he's a contemporary, so there's Advaitin Sri Vidyaranya, there's Akshobhya Tirtha, and there's a member of the Sri Sampradaya named Vedanta Deshika. Vedanta Deshika. And in a particular location, there was a debate where Vedanta Deshika was requested to be the referee in this debate between the two. And in the debate between the two, the topic was the meaning of Tattvamasi. So Advaitins, that's a big Mahavakya, one of 4 really big ones. So what does it mean? Because it's a Vedic statement. And of course the Advaitins had their point of view, and Akshobhya Tirtha had his point of view, because Madhvacharya, his guru, had made commentary on that particular Upanishad from which it comes, so he knew Madhvacharya's teachings. And hearing the discussion between the two, Vedanta Deshika decided or ruled in favor of Akshobhya Tirtha. We'll hear more about this. Sri Vidyaranya. He didn't hold enmity. They were discussing, it's important, they were discussing a teaching, but he didn't hold anything against the person who held a different view than his view on this particular teaching. It comes out later. Cultured people can have a very strong affinity for a particular teaching, but not be disrespectful to another person who holds a different teaching. Just a little sociology comment, my experience in ISKCON is we're not mature. Because a sign of maturity is you can have differences of view, but you don't dislike the person who has a different view. How do you get maturity? Purity. By becoming a very careful follower of those who have the right qualities and characteristics, and serve them. And by the medium of service, that quality that's theirs becomes yours. And it's not just do stuff, it's the sincerity of heart, whereby good qualities become your qualities. Very significant. After this debate with Sri Vidyaranya, he went to a place near Pandharpur. In Pandharpur, who is the main deity in Pandharpur? Vittala. Everybody knows. Many of you know. Vittala. So when he went to that place, he didn't stay in Pandharpur. He was in a camp outside of the city. And in the city, there was a deity maker who made deities of Vittala with, I forget what it's called, but 5 special metals, and there's a procedure for making. So he was making a deity of Vittala, which was what his profession was. And as he was completing the carving of the feet of the deity, the feet of the deity started to bleed. He was shocked. He didn't know what to do. He ran to the temple of Vittaleshwara and was praying and praying and crying and sobbing, "Please don't do this to me. Why has this happened?" The next morning, the Murti maker had a dream. The dream, Lord Vittaleshwara appeared and said, "Please gift this deity to the sadhu, that's Akshobhya Tirtha, that's camped by the side of the river. Take his blessings and give me as a gift to him, the deity that the feet were bleeding from. In the morning he woke up, he went here and there looking according to the indication of Lord Vittaleshwara. He found Akshobhya Tirtha. He offered the deity to Akshobhya Tirtha. Akshobhya Tirtha placed the deity on his head. Because previously, Vittala, he was from that area, was his family deity. And Jayatirtha was also very happy with the understanding that just a short time after he had taken sannyas, here he is getting the family deity to assist his guru, looking after the deity. This very same deity is presently being worshipped in one of the Madhva mats. We're almost done. Being something like Sanatana Goswami would do, or an elevated sadhu would do sometimes. Sadhus were called upon to resolve disputes. So let's go back and Jayatirtha, who is Akshobhya Tirtha's disciple, they were together. They spent the 4 months of the rainy season in a place called Gulburga, which was the capital of that Turkish Empire. The Turkish Empire was called the Brahmani Empire, and that at that time the empire was vast. It covered a big tract of land. But the Turkish king was not a nice guy. They spent the 4 months of the rainy season in his capital. It is, in this biography, it says, this Turkish king, Muhammad Shah, had killed 500,000 people in order to expand his kingdom, and he looted all their wealth that they had accumulated for the previous 500 years, and he plundered other territories further south, because his view was establish Islam by the sword. Some persons have an idea like that. However, he had a religious side. I mean, when these two, Akshobhya Tirtha and Jayatirtha, arrived in his kingdom, he received them with royal honors, especially when he heard that Jayatirtha was previously the son of one of his rulers in his kingdom. Jayatirtha's father was a ruler in that same kingdom. So that this Pandey descendant was treated very respectfully. And for that reason, they were able to stay in the kingdom for so many years. While he was there, during this 4 months of the rainy season, there was a dispute, a Deshpande and Deshmukh dispute. Deshmukhs were local rulers in this big kingdom, and he was from a Deshpande family. And the dispute was, it's a little complicated. Both the Deshmukhs and the Deshpandes were followers of Madhvacharya, and they requested, please help us resolve this dispute. So he wanted to see that within the family there shouldn't be disputes like this, because it could get really messy. What the Deshpandes wanted to do, what Deshmukhs wanted to do, was excommunicate two men from the Brahminical community, officially excommunicate them. So he's supposed to, resolve this dispute. So he called both groups together. You speak first. What's this issue all about? And the Deshpandes accused the Deshmukhs of killing a certain person. So what happened was the Deshpandes wanted to go in this narration, they wanted to go to offer worship in Kashi. And when they went to go to worship in Kashi, they turned the kingdom over temporarily to a certain member of this other family. And when they gave the rulership temporarily, just long enough to go and do some worship in Kashi, when they came back, he wouldn't return the kingdom to them. And they tried to reason with him and persuade him, and he wouldn't give the kingdom back. He usurped the kingdom. And so they killed him. And so the issue was, these other personalities, they killed the Brahmana. And because they killed the Brahmana, they should be excommunicated from Brahminical community. And then he heard the other side. I may be getting some details wrong, but basically, they heard the other side. When we came back, it was a temporary arrangement. It was just to oversee for some time with the understanding, explicit understanding, we come back, we'll resume the kingdom. But he wouldn't return the kingdom. So he had to be dealt with. Instead, they used force to deal with him. Well, when reason failed, they used force. So Vedanta Deshika said, what was done was right, because a king, it wasn't a hereditary title, it was a temporary title, just a placeholder kind of ruler for a while, and he wouldn't give the kingdom back. So those who are the rightful inheritors of the kingdom dealt with him, so they shouldn't be excommunicated. They said, okay, they can have the kingdom back, but what about the fact that he killed a Brahmin? The one that wouldn't give the kingdom back. Interesting. Akshobhya Tirtha asked them to bring a piece of white cloth dipped in indelible black cashew oil. And then he sprinkled some holy water on the cloth, and where the water was sprinkled, the cloth became white, right before their eyes. They were pretty astonished. They said these two brothers, they also, when they went to Kashi and they got the mercy of Sri Ramachandra from Kashi Vishwanath, they also got purified, like this cloth, by sprinkling of holy water. Everyone was impressed, and so the matter got resolved. It could have been a bloody thing. And we'll conclude with Akshobhya Tirtha's departure from this world. He was now quite elderly. He had stayed for some time in this place, Malakhed, and he was training disciples, doing his own sadhana and training them thoroughly. One day, much to his surprise, he called Jayatirtha and said, I'm going to pass my position as the successor of Madhvacharya onto you. I've executed the orders of Madhvacharya by training you in 37 fundamental books of Madhvacharya. Today, I wish to hand over to you the worship of the deities and the huge library of Madhvacharya's books. I wish, so here's his instruction, besides you're the next in line. I want you to write commentaries on Madhvacharya's books. And we pray to the Lord to bless you and be there with you all the time. He stopped speaking, became silent. Jayatirtha is feeling the impending separation of his beloved Guru. Akshobhyatirtha entered Samadhi and left this world. Leaving Jayatirtha stunned. So, conclusion, contributions of Akshobhyatirtha to this very amazing debate that he had with Sri Vidyaranya. Amazing in the sense that this Sri Vidyaranya was a very elevated person in the Advaita school, and that when he was defeated, it marked a turning point in the line of Madhvacharya, bringing preeminence to Dvaitavad beyond the Advaita Vad, and his training of Jayatirtha. So thoroughly that Jayatirtha was prepared to write commentaries. So Jayatirtha took the instruction to heart. Jayatirtha is understood to be the second moon of Madhva. He received the title of Tikacharya, and he dedicated significant time to writing commentaries. And then after he completed the commentaries, we'll hear some more later about his life. And that's all that we have time for this morning. It's 8:25. So you want the microphone? Go ahead, take the microphone. You're very enthusiastic this morning. Because we have to go to the next place, right?
Yes. Yeah. Hare Krishna, devotees. Packed lunch prasadam will be provided in the buses, okay, for those who are traveling by bus. So the bus leaders will have that. So they will make